At some point in everybody's life, you're going to have to deal with some adversity or deal with the tragedy. How you cope with that adversity and that tragedy could define you as a person and could define you the rest of your life. My name is Brian Calvert. This is the story of how a hunting dog got me through some adversity and a major tragedy.
Never wanted any other life than the one I'm living. Get lost inside the haze lies of my 3 children. When she pulls me into a gentle
In 1995, at the age of 22, I started my career as a truck driver. My main goal, after establishing myself in the trucking industry, was to save enough money to build or buy my own house. I finally reached that goal in 2000 by purchasing some land and building my own house. My second goal was to get a dog, and I wanted a German short-haired pointer. I wanted a bird dog. I wanted to train it to bird hunt. Once I got all moved into my house, I did some research and found a German short-haired puppy in southern Indiana. I got the dog home and I named him Ruger. 6 or 7 years after that, I was at a flea market and I instantly fell in love with this puppy. I bring this puppy home and I named her Bristol. She was very loving towards kids and people, and I later learned that was the hound dog in her. Ruger and Bristol went with me everywhere. We did everything together. So things are going good. You know, I've got these 2 dogs and got a good job. Everything's going great. And then we get to June of 2012 and I unexpectedly lose my job at a place I thought I was going to retire at. Luckily I had some money saved up to get me by. You know, having a CDL was pretty easy to get another job, but pretty hard to deal with. So we had to weather the storm and get through that. Fast forward 2012, the neighbors knocked on the door and said they had found a dog running the street and wanted to know if I knew who it was. So I came outside to see the dog, and I said, I don't know whose dog that is, but let's keep it safe and find out if we can figure out whose dog it is. So after a couple of days, nobody claimed him. We couldn't find the owner. One of my neighbors said that they would gladly take him, and we named him Merle Haggard. The next day, Friday, I got home really late Friday night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was coming, into my neighborhood and coming down the street. And who do I see coming down the street? Merle. He must have escaped from the neighbor's house. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning. So I text my neighbor and said, hey, do you know that Merle is out? He's like, I can't contain him. I don't know if I can keep him. And I said at that point, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and keep this dog. Here we go. 3 dogs and 1 person at the house. So let's see how this goes. The following Monday, this is September of 2000, I'm in northern Indiana in my semi making some deliveries, and I get a frantic phone call from a neighbor. Neighbor says, hey, there's something wrong with your house. There's a burn mark on the side of the house, and I smell smoke. So I'm in panic mode, and I'm an hour and a half from my house. I tell him, I said, kick the gate down out back and go get my dogs out of the house. Call me back. I'm turning my semi around on a dime. I'm coming back to Indianapolis as fast as I can, waiting on this phone call to see if my dogs are okay. I'm not worried about my house. I want to make sure my dogs are okay. I get the phone call back from my neighbor. He said, I'm standing at your sliding glass door. It's open. There's so much smoke in here because I've yelled and yelled for the dogs because I can't go in the house. I don't see them. I don't hear them. And I said, look, don't risk your life for the dogs. I said, if they could come, they probably would have come. I said, just, call the fire department, do whatever you got to do. I'll be there as soon as I can. I finally get to my neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is shut down. So I park my semi a couple streets over, and I come running up to my house. My family's all there. My best friend is there. He comes running out and stops me from coming up to the house. I said, where's my dogs at? He said, you don't want to go up there. And I said, they're my dogs. I want to see them. Where are they? He said, they're in the backyard. Come on. So he took me to the backyard, and unfortunately all three of my dogs were found upstairs deceased from smoke inhalation. So the fire department had them out back laying under sheets. So I did my thing. I pulled the sheets up and said my goodbyes to them, and that was probably the toughest day of my life, to lose three dogs. And if you've had a dog, they're more than just a dog, they're family. Those were my kids. The vet had all three of my dogs at his shop. He had them cremated and put in really nice boxes. And I told him that please hold on to them. I don't want them to come home until my house is rebuilt. My plan was to have a big, celebration of their life and of my new house, and have all my friends and family over for that occasion. And I wanted the dogs to be brought over at that time. So that's what we did. Just a strange time for me to be in a house and not have dogs with me. 5 or 6 months and not have a dog, and not knowing if I could mentally ever get another dog. So the best way that I cope with things is sitting in my tree stand. So after the year went by and I got my house back, it was October of 2013. It was October 8th. I was at one of my hunting spots in west central Indiana. I need to move a limb that was in my way so I could get a better vantage point of the game trail that came by. I could see him better. Without wearing a safety harness and not even really thinking about it, because I was only going to be in this tree for 5 minutes, I go to the base of the tree, and I've got a saw with me. I sit flat on the platform that you stand on, and I had a real big limb coming off to my left. And I put my butt on the platform, and I put my left foot on that limb, and I was leaning out to cut this other limb. And as I'm leaning forward, the limb snapped and I lost my balance, and I fell head first. When I wake up, I can't see anything but stars. And then all of a sudden, I notice I can't breathe. So I knew something major was wrong. I just didn't know what. And I was kind of afraid to move. Well, immediately something else told me not to lay there. Something told me to get up, crawl to my four-wheeler, and go get help. Something was seriously wrong. Somehow, some way, I managed to crawl to my four-wheeler, and I couldn't use the right side of my body. I pulled myself up with my left hand, and the throttle on most four-wheelers is on the right side. So I had to cross over with my left hand and drive my four-wheeler out. Every bump I hit, I could feel my insides burning. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk. Nobody was out here. I was out here all by myself. Just by the grace of God, the highway department was coming by at the same time I pulled out to the road. I flagged them down. They could see that I was in distress. So by the time the ambulance got there and got to me and got me to Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis, it was an hour and a half. Once I got to the hospital, they assessed what was wrong with me. That I had broken every rib on the right side of my body. They had broken inward, and they had collapsed my lung. I had a shattered clavicle. I had broken vertebrae in my back. I had a concussion, lacerated liver. I had a severely bruised hip. They put a chest tube in me. That's what that is. And going back to when I was laying out there in the woods, something told me to get up and move. The doctor told me, if you did not get up and move, you were suffocating. You would have laid there and suffocated to death because the blood was filling up in my chest cavity. And once again, that only took 5 minutes of being unsafe, not using a safety harness. That's me in the hospital. That's the first day. My sister thought I was crazy when I told her to get her camera and start taking pictures of me in the hospital. She's like, why do you want me to take pictures of you in the hospital? I said, because this is going to help people someday. And that's exactly what I'm doing with you guys. Wear your safety harness. That's what this is about. I was in ICU for 6 days. I was in the hospital for 10 days total. And my total recovery time to get to where I could finally fully walk again was about 4 months. So after recuperating from my tree stand fall, back to driving a truck again, I'm just kind of lost for a couple years. I've lost my dogs, and I'm depressed. I'm starting to get some anxiety. I just wasn't right. And I knew in the back of my mind, Brian, you need to get a dog again. I remember my dog Bristol that I lost in the fire, how good she was with kids and how gentle, and how I was told that was the hound dog in her. So right then and there, I knew that my next dog would be some type of a hound. And I did some research, and I fell in love with blue ticks. And I thought, my next dog is going to be a blue tick. And I wanted to train it to be a therapy dog to help sick kids and help veterans and The seed was planted in that hospital room about getting another dog. It just mentally, I wasn't there yet. I did some research, I made a lot of phone calls, and everybody kept leading me to South Carolina to Blue Tick One Kennels. They all said that this guy had dogs with the best demeanor that would work great for therapy dog work, plus they were good trackers. So another aspect of me being able to help people, but I could also help hunters by tracking wounded deer with it. So I named her Dixie after, South Carolina, where she was from, and Jolene from one of my favorite Dolly Parton songs. So that's how she got her first name, Dixie Jolene. Before I'd even held her in my hands, she had a name. I have everybody over at the house. My buddy texts me and says, hey, I'm out front with Dixie, come out and meet her. So I go out to the street and he hands me this blanket with this little coonhound puppy with all ears and all feet in this little camo blanket, and it was love at first sight. So I bring her into the house and I said, this is why everybody's here. This is the big announcement. We have a new family member. After, going 2 years without my dogs that I lost in the fire, here's this new puppy that's brought into my life that I'm going to use to help people in the future.
To me, there's nothing worse as a parent than the feeling of helplessness than standing over your child in an intensive care unit and there's nothing you can do except pray. So Dixie the Praying Dog hits home regardless of a person's faith with everybody that's there, because many times that's all we have.
And I gotta tell you, to see Dixie in action, she absolutely represents the human-animal bond. You can see it, you can almost touch it, you can definitely feel it. It is such an honor to be able to call Brian and Dixie the Praying Dog our friends.
All that heartache and tragedy has brought me to the point in my life where I had to rise up. What will you do when you're met with adversity or tragedy in your life? Will you rise up?